Hey everyone, welcome to day two of Rejection Con. This is the operations track. My name is Bob Miller. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Global Data Systems and the founder of IR Game, and have been involved in working with all of the guys we know that are part of Rejection Con. So happy to see you guys here on day two. And I have the pleasure of actually introducing Keith Craig, who I met as part of the work we were doing in on Empath. So I've had the opportunity to know him for much longer than just Rejection Con. So I'm really looking forward to his discussion today. So Keith, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and take it from there.
All right. Thank you, Bob, and hello, everyone. I'm excited to be with you today. I wasn't originally scheduled as a speaker today. I'm filling in for somebody, and I was just really happy to have the opportunity to do this. Just a little bit from my background. If you just kind of glance over what I put on the screen, I'm currently the head of learning design and innovation at Empath. And previously, I've been involved in like larger learning organizations at Ring Central, at Panera Bread, at Allen Interactions, IBM before that. Allen Interactions, by the way, is a custom e-learning design and development company. So online learning has been a big part of my career. And then there's a lot of things in my past besides that, including skating rink Disney character, which I won't go into now, but you can reach out and I'd love to talk to you about it. In these roles, I've worked with so many experts. And one of the things that I found from working with people who have expertise, people who are specialists, is they tend to fall in love with the complicated parts of their specialties and to kind of lose sight of what's simple about it. And so I found myself years and years ago at Panera feeling that the instructional designers and other trainers on my team were like too bogged down in what was complicated about instructional design or what could be, like the finer points of things. And I wanted to call them back to just a simpler way of thinking about instructional design as the foundation. There's a place, all that complicated stuff, there's a place for that. But 90% of what we do as learning professionals is simple or starts from simple ideas and simple perspectives. And so my goal, starting with that team years and years ago at Panera, and I've probably done this with teams half a dozen times since then, was again to focus them on what's simple about their profession and let that be the foundation for being effective. So I created a presentation that was strategically simple and intentionally lo-fi, and I called it the Blue Bike. It's had a bunch of different subtitles over the years, and I'm usually talking to instructional designers when I present this, but the truth is that we're all learning designers. If you're responsible for the performance of a team, or if you're on a team and people have different skill sets and need to cover or help out, um, learning design is actually a big part of your job, whether you think about it that way or not. I want to start with this slide here. If your ops requires skills, then skills are ops and training is ops. This is not normally part of the presentation, but this is another hobby horse of mine that I've ridden for years, because one of the things that I found over the years is that people who are explicitly in operations often think of learning and training as adjunct to their operations, things that are nice when you have the time. We're too busy running the show to learn it. It's like the old Stephen Covey thing. I'm too busy chopping down trees to sharpen my axe. That's a very, very real ops perspective. And it really came home to me when I worked at Panera, because we worked very, very close with operations. And you could go into a cafe and without ever looking at their training matrix, you would understand or have a really good suspicion about what their attitude and approach to learning was. You would see in their operations if they had a reactive or a proactive approach to learning. Every Panera Cafe has the same tools. They're running the same playbook. The ops are the same across 2,500 locations. What's different is how it's executed, and you kind of notice those things. And the truth is, you could look at ops metrics and understand what their training approaches were. If food costs are high, if labor costs are high, if net promoter score and CSAT and other customer metrics are low or inconsistent across days and day parts, like there's an indication that you've got a skill problem, not a system problem. So the thing that I offer you as the kind of the starting point for everything that I'm going to do next, which again is aimed at learning people, is this idea that if your ops depend on skills, then skills are ops and training is ops. So this is where my presentation normally starts. And instructional designers kind of recoil at this a little bit because it feels personal. But I always say to them, people don't want training. People need training because they want something else. We tend to glorify learning and education. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're proud of going to school, and we hope for ourselves or for others, our children maybe, to go on to more education. Some people are very, very proud of how many books they read. They set goals for that. But the truth is that it's really never or almost never the end of the thing. We don't learn things as an end in and of itself. It's a means to an end. So people that want training in your business, or that you want training for, the actual desire isn't training. It's actually some other circumstance or situation. They want training because they need training, rather, because of something else that they want. So I usually start here. What is it that beginners want? They want some sort of better circumstance. In your job, it might be, I want to do this task faster. I want to be able to do this task without asking for help. I want to be able to do it with fewer errors. I want to be considered for more responsibility. I want to start a whole new career. You've got these other goals, and you picture yourself living that other life once you get training. You say, well, I want to go get this degree, or I want to get this certification, or I want to take this class. And if I'll only do those things, then I can have this other reality that I'm hopeful about. It may be that you walk through a store or a market and you see a cute blue bike. And what you want is to ride a cute blue bike on a sunny day. That's the type of thing that beginners want. So the challenge is, the problem is, what do experts want for them? I said before that experts tend to fall in love with what's complicated about their specialty. Experts tend to fall in love with the details of their specialty. And think about if you're at a party, or you're with family, and you mention that you bought a grill, or you bought a barbecue smoker. And heaven help you if you're talking to somebody who's already got one and has done it for 10 years, because you'll be talking to them about every little detail of every little thing, when in your head, it's like, I'd just like to make a brisket for the potluck. And the way experts are passionate about the complexity of what they do is an obstacle to beginners. So beginners, again, just want to ride a blue bike on a sunny day. And an expert wants this for them. So the question is how do we reconcile these things? Somebody needs to reconcile these differences. And this is where you come in and where I come in. Now, usually I'm talking to instructional designers, again, on teams that I've led at other places. And I really drive this home to them that a huge part of their job is to take what experts have to offer and help deliver what beginners want or what beginners need. But if you're a manager, if you're a parent, if you're a friend, if you're a colleague, and somebody in your life needs to develop a new skill or wants to develop a new skill, then you're in this role. You're in a position to do this for them. So I want to talk a little bit about how we learn. So this is how we start something new. We start with small steps. We start with a safety net. We start with support. We start with some information that we need to get going, and hopefully encouragement. And if you're doing this at home with a kid that's learning to ride a bike, you're a good parent. if you're providing a safety net, if you're telling them a few things that they need to get started and to be successful, if you're providing support where they need it, if you're encouraging them as they try and struggle and feel nervous, you're doing a great job. And if you're a manager doing these things with your team, you're also doing a great job. If you're in a leadership role, leading an operations organization, the folks that come into your organization and are learning your organization as a starting point, learning new skills or technologies or services, or maybe they've been with you for a long time and you've added things to your stack and they need to learn those things. They start in this exact same way. So when we're learning something new, this is how we start. But honestly, this is how we learn mostly, which is to get out there and spend some time at it. This presentation was built around bikes because when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time on bikes and I had a lot of time to be on bikes. And I've got scrapes and cuts to show for it. I got a couple of scary stories to show for it, but I learned to ride a bike. And if you think about anything that you've ever been taught or anything that you've ever sought to learn, you really come to understand it when you put it into practice, when you get out there and do it. That's why we're a little bit nervous when we have to do things in front of other people for the first time, even if we've been learning, because we understand that we're going to confront some challenges and those challenges are going to embarrass us. One of the things that I remember from years and years and years ago, I'm a hot water heater in the garage, the valve got faulty and it started to leak and I decided I could replace it myself. So I watched the video about how to replace it. It's like, this is easy. I can totally do this. I went to Home Depot. I bought a couple of things. I got in my garage. I took the first step and then I was like, oh, I don't know how to do this. So I went back to Home Depot, found the guy with the suspenders, asked him a couple of questions. All right, man, I can totally do this. I went back, did the next step. And then I was like, oh man, I don't know how to do this. And we kind of go through that process, but then you've done it. Once you've done it and you've had a chance to work at things a little bit, that's really how we learn. The truth is we learn by doing. Now, not everybody wants to ride a blue bike on a sunny day. Some people really, really, really do want to be experts, but most people have other goals, more modest goals, even if they might graduate to other things, might someday want to be an expert or even have it in their mind that down the road, maybe that's a possibility for them. Usually somebody that's learning a new thing starts with simpler goals. I want to ride a cute blue bike on a sunny day. I want to commute to work instead of taking the train. I want to go to a park with my family. The bike on the right is my bike. I wanted to ride in a nature preserve that's near my house and be able to ride off trails. These are the sort of goals that we have that drive most people and that leads to that passion that causes experts to become so in love with the details. So as learning designers or managers that are helping our teams to learn things, we need to understand these goals. We need to understand who has what goals, even if those goals are externally provided. Even if I say to you, I know that you would like a promotion. If I could give you this type of responsibility, then I could promote you. I could give you the opportunities that you want. If the person wants that promotion and wants to earn it in that way, then the goal I provided them externally becomes their internal goal. So when we're seeking to develop our people, we need to be thinking about how goals become internal for them so that we understand what it is that they want and need. And then we create a plan. And this is a huge part of what instructional designers do. I said earlier that understanding what people want, what they need is a huge part of what they do. This is what people view as or think of in instructional design or learning design and development, is to create a plan. I've got half a dozen things on this screen that can fit into a plan. Truthfully, we could fill it up with 100 or more. There's all sorts of things available to you to help people to learn. But even what I have on this screen, you can think of honestly in two kind of simple buckets. So the first bucket is, what do I do to provide preparation? How do I help somebody begin to think about the thing that they're going to do, to have the perspective, facts, knowledge, stories in their head? Like, what do I do to prepare this person to actually try the things that they want to do? We do that with online courses or e-learning. It could be live events, instructor-led training, certification programs, other means of validation, college and university degrees, all sorts of formal training, books, provide preparation for somebody that's learning a new thing. And as a manager, you've got a lot to choose from. Maybe you can't afford a class. Maybe you can afford a book. Maybe you can't, maybe you have access to really good classes, but they're not exactly what you need. And you can decide what to use and what to supplement it with so that they have the parts that are missing. A lot of times as a manager, you have this, I want to send somebody to a class mentality, when the truth is a class is one of the tools that's available to you. And you have all sorts of options that are available when you're helping somebody prepare to do things. And then the other is application. Honestly, I kind of struggle with what to call this other bucket. I settled an application simply because it rhymes with preparation. But we need to take the knowledge that we have and apply it to situations. And we do that in a lot of different ways. At the bottom, I put opportunity. And that opportunity could be a lab. It could be role play. It could be I give you a task and ask you to work on a real thing with support and help from people. That opportunity to get your hands dirty and to really learn a thing is part of the application process. So is coaching and on-the-job training. Having somebody watch how you try the thing that you're learning and give you some advice and make simple corrections is extremely valuable. I'm always impressed with professional sports teams and how the players interact with coaches. Particularly, I watch a lot of baseball. I love to watch the pitchers interact with pitching coaches. The worst pitcher on a Major League Baseball team knows more about pitching than almost anybody else in the world. I mean, the number of people that have had as much experience and instruction on pitching as the worst pitcher on your favorite team is a small number. But when that coach walks out in the moment and talks to them about how they need to make adjustments or how they could improve, the pitcher listens and nods their head and then makes those adjustments. Coaching is an extremely valuable part of learning and of operations and of on-the-job performance. And then usually when I talk to people about how they can think about learning programs, I talk about what do people need to do? What do people need to know in order to do that? And then what do people need access to while they're doing it? Sometimes I just refer to that kind of as reference, but I've started more and more to talk about it, things I need access to. It's resources, things I don't have to memorize. It doesn't have to be in my head, but I need to get it when I need it. That might be your SOPs. That may be other resources, like just the ability to look up a schematic or a code or to get an answer to a question that doesn't come up very often. I don't need to be taught it, but I need to have access to it. So we've got preparation and we have application. And as a manager, if you're trying to help somebody become good at their part of your operations, then you can think about what do they need from a preparation standpoint and what's available to me to provide them, and what do they need from an application standpoint? What do they need in order to get that hands-on real world experience to put the preparation into practice? So back to what we said, we need to understand who we're trying to help, what it is that they want, and how do we enable that? So we take all those things into account and we create a plan, and the plan is a little different depending on what their goals are. If you want to lead the Peloton in the Tour de France, then your goals are different than the person that wants to ride a cute blue bike on a sunny day. We take all that information, we take that perspective, understanding what their goals are personally, what our goals are operationally, and what tools and resources are available to us, and we develop a plan that helps them get what they want. And that is the blue bike presentation. It's a really simple way to think about a potentially complicated thing and hopefully to put it into practice. When we wrote the description for this session, I said that small shifts in perspective could really be powerful in this aspect of your operations. And so, just a little summary of what those perspectives are. The first thing, and honestly, a big hurdle for a lot of people to get past, is that training is operations. It's the thing sometimes when you're in the weeds that you put off to the side and say, I'll get back to it when I have time, or you think of it as a potential morale booster for people that are struggling a little bit. That's a reactive mentality. If you have a proactive approach to the role that skills and skill development play in your operations, you won't be in the weeds as much because you'll have built really excellent operations. Again, people don't want training. They need training because of some other thing that they want. And we need to tap into that. That's the thing that we want to leverage to make sure that we get them what they need so they can have what they want. And then we provide opportunities for them to develop through preparation or formal training or knowledge development, and then application, the ability to get practice and to do things real life. And friends, it does not have to be complicated. Even if you have an instructional designer in your life who wants to make it seem complicated, it does not have to be complicated. So hope that's helpful, and I would love it if we had some questions.
Yeah, we don't at the moment, Keith, but I can put this, again, so I operate I'm the operator of an MSSP, and we are, we're pretty good size, 120 employees,
Wow.
well past 6 digits in revenue kind of a thing. So, but to your point, what I was going to do was talk about how what you're saying here applies in our organization, because we're an operation maturity level of 4.6 from a service leadership standpoint. So we're very operationally mature. And part of that is it speaks exactly to what you got here as requirements and your perspectives things. Training is an operational process. It absolutely is, right? So one of the things when I first joined the organization about 7 years ago, I went and had them build career paths for everybody who was in the organization, right? And that was beyond the scope of just what their role or responsibility was going to require. It was what the kinds of things they wanted to do. You know what I mean? We talked to them in terms of, hey, what do you really see yourself doing longer term? Because obviously, if you're going to talk to people at the service desk, they're going to have aspirations beyond the service desk, right? And so if you don't ask those questions, then you don't know. And we factor those in, right? We factor those into our training program. So there are times when we have people in a certain role and responsibility that are training outside of that role and responsibility because we know that that's a career path that they want to try to achieve, whether it's with us or not, right? Because again, it's part of it's part of talent retention. To use training as a talent retention tool as is important too, which again is an operational aspect of running the business. So, and I tell them up front, look, the minute you stop learning here, you're not learning anything new. Then, if I'm you, then I'm looking for the next place to go, right? Because you personally are responsible for making sure that you're improving your skill set and getting where you want to go. I mean, it's not going to be anybody else that does it for you. You got to really be the steward of that deal. And I think a lot of what you're talking about here applies directly to that sort of ground up grassroots sort of an approach to looking at your workforce and making sure that they that you are at least doing what you can. You can't create things from thin air, right? So if you don't need his position or that you're already it's full, a good crew that's there, you don't, but you're still managing the expectations of the people you got, right? Which is one of the reasons, and this is not a shameless plug because again, we're already a customer, but it's the reason our HR department decided to switch to the Empath platform because of the career paths that we can build from our own internal training. We have done thousands of hours of internal training, which we put on Empath and built career paths out of so that they could be trained in our philosophy and then also take in all the great content that the platform has to offer. So, but it
Well,
does come down to you got to know what your people want. I mean, that really is what that is the root where you start for sure.
Well, and what you described is really powerful because one, having those conversations about what do you want your career to be like? What do you want? What opportunities do you want, not just next month, but down the road?
Right.
that gives you an opportunity as a leader to align your operational opportunities with someone's goals. And if you don't have that conversation, then you don't know what they want. You don't know
Yeah.
if they really do want to, lead the peloton in the Tour de France. But it also having that approach and having good learning systems in place and a mindset about it um, is can alleviate that anxiety about this person leaving the organization. I always hate it when somebody says, if we do this, if they develop these skills, they're just going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you like these people? Do you want good things for them?
Yeah.
Not every organization can sustain every ambition. So you're
Yeah.
going to lose some good people. If you have good people and they're developing, you're going to lose some good people. But if you know how to develop good people, then you know how to backfill the people that leaves. And wouldn't you rather celebrate somebody getting a great job and a big promotion into another organization than like kind of hold them back? So
Yeah. Because I've been here 7 years with Global Data Systems, and I can name 12 people who left who were really great. They came back.
yeah,
They
yeah,
came back
that's
to work for
awesome.
us, right? Because when they went out and tried, they went out and tried other angles or things. And then at some point, sometimes the job that they were really wanting internal to us opens up, right? And so they keep an eye on it. If you treat them like human beings and you're in it for them, then in the end, if they leave and they really do like you as a company, then they're going to watch. And if an opening opens up, I'm telling you, it's happened a dozen times over 7 years. We've had really great employees who were superstars leave, and then when a spot opened up that was actually suitable for what their goals were, come back 100%. It's happened. It happens so often. Then we tell everybody when they leave, look, you were always welcome here. You know, by default, you're welcome here. So um, just keep us in mind and keep in touch, right? So
Absolutely.
we just do simple things like that, which are do not cost the organization a damn thing other than just being decent human beings with other great
Yeah.
human beings that are part of the team, right? And,
Well, and
and that,
Daniel's
that works. Yeah.
Daniel's message in the comments is exactly right. In the meantime, that
Well, yeah, of
person,
course.
your
Yeah.
ops depend on that person, and
Yeah.
your customers judge
Yeah.
you based on that person and the other people on your team. And don't you want great people? I mentioned baseball earlier, and I live in Tampa. I'm a Tampa Bay Rays fan, and the Rays are famous for not being able to afford uh, players when they kind of reach stardom.
Hmm.
And so we've always got young people or young players that are breaking out in their career, but we know are going to go on to somewhere else. And so you watch a guy and it's like, oh man, he's only going to be here a couple more years. But I'm glad he's here now because I would rather have that on the roster than a bunch of guys that couldn't be on any other team. And so, like, our organizations are that way. I've had people leave teams that I led that it broke my heart to see them go, but it was for good opportunities. And I knew I had been a part of their success, and I never let them know that I was sad about it. I always encouraged them.
Yeah. I can, it goes along the same thing. Another little operational tactic that I've learned over time is that when we bring new people in, they come in probationary to begin with, and they start working with people who they would ultimately start working with. But in the end, the people who are basically nurturing him and mentoring him to get into the saddle and during that whole probation period. At the end of that probation period, we pull them all in the room and say, okay, is this somebody that you want to keep or not? We don't we
Yeah,
don't say it's somebody you want to keep or not. We say, no, he's going to be working with your team. We need you guys to give us an opinion about whether or not you want to keep him, keep that individual or not. And two things happen almost automatically. The ones that don't work out, they're gone before you even get to the end of the probationary period,
right.
typically, right? I mean, they just are, right? But when they stay and they all sit around that room and they all say, yes, we think he's going to fit in or she's going to fit in just fine. Then what they do is they buy into that employee and they won't let that employee fail because they don't want to have to come back and say, hey, I was wrong about, I didn't look at that deep enough. I should have looked a little deeper. So they mentor the devil out of each other to bring them all up to the same level and push them forward. So that's
That's
saved
outstanding.
us. Yeah, it's just saved us so much time, and I've learned how to make this a self-governing system in a lot of areas, and that's a method or a tactic you can use to especially when you've got big teams like Knox or and then service desk groups, right? I mean, those things are big teams. There's lots of people on those teams. So they're built for that sort of thing. And we really promote from within. That's another thing we make really clear. We don't really bring people in from the outside unless we have a talent deficit that we need to replace. But other than that, we always promote from the service desk up into the knock, from the knock into the infrastructure teams, from the infrastructure teams to the service delivery teams or the SOC teams or the support teams or any of the other things that, we've got in the mill. That's another thing we make really clear, is that we do it that way. And the last tactic I will throw out there is that we try to push as much knowledge from our subject matter experts toward the front of the organization as possible.
Right.
So even actions that would typically be done by the SOC, if they are procedure oriented, then we can write the playbook for them and we can memorialize that playbook inside of our PSA. And then we will push the training down and let the front desk start handling those because it's a pretty prescriptive process that they can do. Right. And in doing so, they get to learn about other aspects of the company that they may not be associated with normally because we're constantly pushing segments of the information down toward them so that they can actually be a part of the solution, right? And that turns out to be another really powerful method to use because in the end, they'll show some natural talent or not as it relates to whatever they're doing. So you'll
Hmm.
know if their aspirations are realistic or not. It's another way to figure that out early in their process, right? Early in their career, so that you can guide them along the way. So all these things, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, I've been in technology companies 35 years or whatever it's been. And I can tell you the people engineering part of this takes up 85% of my time.
Right.
If I could put 85% of my time just doing the cool technical parts,
Yeah.
it would be a lot easier gig to do about 100%, right? But in reality, it turns out about 85% of it is really the people engineering part, making sure that you're looking at those people as human beings. And I wasn't always a C-level person, so I saw how not to do it so
Hmm.
many times that I promised myself if I ever got into the front seat of one of these that I was going to do it the right way. And the statistics have turned out to back up the observations that I'd made over the course of my career. Is that, look, if you just treat people right and pay attention, and training is a huge part of that, just like you're pointing out. If you'll do that, you can make a very resilient, self healing organization that does not require a lot of arbitration to resolve conflict because they know how to resolve all that conflict themselves and they're all pulling the rope the same way. And it
Absolutely.
all comes down to that. Yeah. To me, it all circles back to the training and culture, the training and expertise, the understanding the humans that are part of the equation. Um,
Well, and
so,
and most organizations, even really small, you've got a larger organization, but even really small organizations have a lot of expertise and
absolutely.
experience on the team. One of the things that I love for any size organization is lunch and learns, because a lunch and learn can be pulled together really, really quickly. And you can just talk from the heart about how to do a thing. Or like if you're a sales team, you can talk about, man, we're having a hard time getting past this objection, or this competitor, we're losing on this feature or something like that. And you can just talk through it. And the people that are having success can share what's happening. And then you need to combine that with an opportunity to try it. So you need to not just let what you've learned
Yeah.
dissipate.
Yeah.
But and then if you're onto something, if you've got some information that's valuable, you can record it and you can make it available to other people. And it doesn't have to be a formal live event. It can be available whoever needs it when they need it. There's a lot of approaches that are really effective that
Yeah.
are actually pretty simple and available to honestly any size organization. We just tend to make these things harder than they need to be.
Yeah, they do not have to be. I agree. I can tell you the lunch and learns that we do in Louisiana are great because the food is damn good. So it's always around it's
lunch,
always
lunch,
around
and lunch, and
gumbo
learn,
or
learn.
cracklings or
Yeah.
boudin or all the things that we eat down here that everybody comes for those. Yeah, you're right about that because and it's probably 70% the meal and the reason or the motivation 70% the meal and 30% the what they're going to learn. But it's only because those we do love what we cook down here, so everybody shows up. But it is a good methodology, by the way. Um, absolutely. Yeah, I see Kayla
Yeah.
talking about boiled crawfish. It is boiled crawfish season, and we have definitely baptized a number of mud bugs over the course of the last couple of months for sure.
I am Well, I had a very light lunch today, and now I'm
Now you're
uh,
hungry? Yeah.
very aware, very aware of it.
So has
So
anybody else got any questions? Drop them in the chat area, and we're watching that right now. So yeah, now I made everybody hungry.
yeah,
I sort of don't apologize for that because the food is really good. You should come. Well, Kayla knows
I
she's in
believe.
Baton Rouge, but the rest of you should come down and hang out for a while because we'll convert you. You want to talk about a talent
I'm
recruitment
sold.
resource? We can do that. We can absolutely do that. I don't see any other questions. So, Craig, unless you've got something else you want to talk about, I think we can give them back
Well,
a few
let
minutes of their
me
time.
let
Oh,
me
go ahead.
just throw out a question and see
Sure.
if anybody will respond. But
Absolutely.
I put a lot at stake in the idea that training is operations. That if your operations depend on skills, then skill development and training are operations. To the people that attended today, does that seem true? Do you see that in your own uh, operations, in your own experience?
Yeah. Drop your opinion in the chat if you feel like training is really an operational aspect of operations for your organization. And it certainly, like I said, it certainly is for us. I mean, it's the only thing that's got us through. I mean, we've been through a pandemic. We've been through so many hard to work through situations. I don't think we could have done it without it, to be honest with you. So Kayla's
Those
saying it's
tired.
been Kayla said I've been training for almost 4 months now, hiring spree, and I am so tired. Well, I will
You
tell
bet.
you this. Um,
Well, I
well,
bet
yeah,
you've
especially
accomplished
while
a
you're
lot.
in
Yeah.
training. Yeah, especially while you're in training, I know it can be grueling because I don't like sitting there for hour after hour, kind of pull that information in. So I'm with you. I the only thing I can tell you is you just got to push through it because it's the end goal that you're after. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it,
That's
unfortunately.
right.
So, and then Daniel says, yes, we staff to have the skills to support our clients, and those skills continually keep changing as we need to staff or keep upskilling. We have, and in our case, we train on some very specific hardware platforms, right? Because we do big infrastructure, complex projects. So, we have to keep a certain number of licensed individuals on all of that hardware. It's just part of the operating. It is literally closely coupled. That training is very closely coupled to our operations because it has to do with discount levels we get and or the types of referrals we get from the
I can
vendors.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah, it's a money. It comes down to actual money, and we get marketing money from some of these vendors as a part of that. By achieving certain training levels and having the right certifications on staff. Then it's a very business decision. At that point. But we try to blend that with, like I said, we try to blend that with all of our employees and where their target is, where they want to wind up. AI, I will throw this out here because I think this
Oh
is a
man.
perfect time to do this, right? If you and your staff have not been working with large language models and just getting used to that concept, then you need to stop what you're doing and put that at the top of your list because I'm going to tell you, for us as MSPs and MSSPs, our lives are going to change pretty dramatically over the next few years as a lot of these tools keep incorporating, these specialized agent um, machines in their software and being able to understand how to interact with those and get the results you want. Now's the time to spend the time to kind of get used to them and understand what they do, understand how they fit in your ecosystem and how they're going to fit in the future in your ecosystem. Just read and play as much as possible because there is not a whole lot of training targeted at the MSP MSSP space yet as it relates to AI because again, we're talking large language models for the most part right now, which are not something that can run out and remediate a problem. Now we do have some tools that have it built into it, but even now those tools are still at an early stage of development, as it relates to these agent AI. So you really need to put that on your list, high up on your list to get comfortable with. And by the way, I teach a class. I teach one class at the local university, and it's the engineering department, and it's on engineering innovation. And I poll the students day one and say, look, how many of you have been working with AI? And it's sort of stunning how many don't mess with it at
Really?
all. I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, and these are college kids, so I would expect them to be out monkeying around a lot more, but they don't. So that's one of the first assignments I give them is, hey, you go interact with these 4 LLMs, and I want you to come up with a prompt that gives you this kind of result, right? And I turn them loose on it. Um, but that's definitely something that needs to be at the top of the list, from a training perspective. Keep your eyes out for really good MSP, MSSP training as it relates to AI deployment, AI utilization, the whole 9 yards. It's not going to replace anybody's job. It's just going to make you not have to waste time on low production work that you're having to do to fill in the gaps, right?
Well, the variables of our success are constantly changing, and so as new tools come into play, as new expectations are established with customers, we have to adapt to those things,
Yep.
and so we have to make sure that we have the skills that can handle the new expectations or handle the new tools, or maybe a skill we don't need anymore, a skill that we used to really be valuable goes away with an upgrade or
Well, you said
deprecation.
something really important there, because I don't think most, you need to you need to get rid of things that you're no longer selling, right? And just offload them so
Yeah,
that you can offload the operational capital to support them. Especially that, the golden rule with service and service leadership is anything you have as a product or service should be something you could sell to every customer that you have, right? That is their view on the Apple. But so many people are dragging around some legacy stuff that they've had for a long time and are afraid to get rid of it, because they might have the one customer that comes along that needs something from that deal. But you really need to learn to let that stuff go. Narrow your focus, keep your focus on what's current. Keep your eyes on the horizon about what's moving up into the next slot, because the pace of change has picked up so much nowadays. You really can't afford to go off the grid for 2 months and come back and it be the same universe. Not really. Something's gonna have changed, in the last
absolutely.
2 months. So
Absolutely. Well, Bob, thank you for hosting
yep.
today this session and for the conversation. And thanks to everybody who attended. I do have, I guess, one other slide I should have put up before, which is here's how you can reach me,
Yeah, good.
Keith at
Perfect timing.
impactmsp.com, or you can catch me at LinkedIn. When I put that picture on the bio page, I thought, subconsciously it would inspire you that I was going to like lead people through this really difficult thing. But now I look at it and think people might have looked at that and just said, well, this guy might get me killed. So, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I chose the right image or not. But thanks
some of
everybody for
some of the
joining.
best people in the world are a little crazy, Keith. So I don't think that's a bad thing. So
All
all right,
right. Thank
everyone.
you,
Thanks
everyone.
for joining the session, and be sure to get over to your next session. See you soon. Thanks, everybody.
See y'all.